lengkap dengan PSD-nya, ya. Kemudian setelah itu tanggal berapa disubmit. Jadi kemudian ditulis dia professor atau dia chief of editor, and then in your cover letter you have mentioned I'm enclosing here with an original research article dengan titlenya apa, ya. Kemudian for review, for publication in this journal. Jurnalnya boleh disebutkan apa nama jurnalnya. Kemudian kita bisa menyatakan I confirm that the above submission has not been published before and it's not under consideration for publication elsewhere. So thank you for your consideration and your faithfully and your name. Ya, boleh juga dicantumkan tanda tangan juga bisa. Jadi cover letter itu biasanya 1 halaman maksimum, ya. Ada juga beberapa jurnal minta cover letter dengan tujuan penelitian. Juga setelah judul, ya, boleh dicantumkan 1 kalimat, the objective of this research is about what. Oke. Jadi cover letternya seperti ini. Nanti saya akan share ke chatting box dengan Ibu Kokom juga, karena nanti Prokdi kalau ada yang mau kirim paper, jurnal juga bisa dipakai template format seperti ini, ya. Ini sebagai contoh. Nah, setelah itu rekan-rekan bisa lihat setelah cover letter, kira-kira checklistnya dulu, ya. Semoga checklistnya ini penting sekali buat rekan-rekan untuk mensubmit paper, ya. Checklist for journal article. So make sure you have title. You follow author guideline. How many words for the title? So the title usually between 8 and 12 words. Okay, in the title, we don't use question mark. In the title, we avoid to use like what or how, why, all the question words, right? So the title words consist of 8 and 12 words. Now, abstract, we need to follow auto guideline abstract. So, Ibu Kokom, like this morning, so I've been working with Unsri, ya. Satu Unsri dengan Ibu Professor Sulis, ya. Mungkin Ibu Kokom tahu, Professor Sulis dengan anak bimbingannya, ya, masuk ke Q1, ya, Bu Kokom, dari Universitas Sriwijaya. Nah, saya mau nanti UNY banyak sekali yang Q1, ya. Jadi, tadi pagi bicara mengenai abstrak. Jadi abstraknya ada perbaikan dan kita harus follow auto guideline. Jadi structure abstract, karena papernya itu publish di Emerald, dia perlu ada structure abstract. Structure abstract itu ada objektif, ada method, ada originality, ada implication, kemudian ada yang namanya results findings, ya. Contribution as well. So how many words in the abstract? So usually 150 words or 200 words atau 250 words. So keywords, how many keywords? Usually 5 and 6 keywords. So what is the purpose keywords? Keywords, the purpose is if you want to get a lot of citation from other researchers, so people want to search your research based on the keyword, so people can see in the Google Scholar or any journal databases, you know, it's easy for you to search keywords. Now, structure of the paper, you need to check margin, font size, font style, referencing style, yeah, and check introduction and background of your research, literature review, update the references, critical thinking. Now, Ibu Kokom, nanti setelah ini saya akan tunjukin very good video presentation about abstract writing. Jadi nanti bisa diambil, dicatat, ya. Kurang lebih sekitar 14-16 menit penulisan abstract writing, kemudian reading secara critical reading, video presentation. Nanti saya akan share video presentation dan rekan-rekan bisa menyimak dan mencatat, ya. Nah, literature review, critical thinking, kalau ada hipotesa, ada teorinya, ada kerangka penelitiannya, ya, itu perlu dilihat, ya, kerangka konseptual framework modelnya, kemudian metodologinya, berapa halaman biasanya, kurang lebih 1 sampai 2 halaman. Jadi saya akan nanti kasih ini ke Bu Kokom. Jadi checklist ini penting. Jadi kalau rekan-rekan mau submit, kalau bisa ada checklist ini, ya. Ini standar. Kalau saya memberikan pelatihan Ibu Kokom atau coaching, writing clinic, biasanya saya duduk ya satu persatu, ya, mahasiswa-mahasiswa S3 yang mau publikasi bersama, saya duduk tuh, telusurin papernya, ya. Sampai bisa pernah sekali saya dengan Universitas Muhammadiyah di Jogja sampai satu author itu bisa sampai 2 jam duduk liatin sampai benar-benar banyak belajar, ya. Kemudian data results analysis, data analisa, response rate-nya, primary data, secondary data, sampling method. So all those things need to make sure have a proper, adequate process methodology. Discussion implication. So we have managerial, practical implication, usually 1 and 2 pages. And we have conclusion, future research, limitation, and also we need to have proofreading. So one of the paper with UI ya, Ibu Kokom, dia minta yang melakukan proofreading ini siapa? Ada jurnal namanya Sustainability Journal. Jadi ada yang dari UI ya, dengan Mbak Siti, kemudian Mbak Ratna. Jadi kita bikin paper ya, ternyata perlu ada proofreading ya. Jadi proofreading itu siapa? Nanti dari UNY saya bisa bantu proofreading, authorship-nya, cover letter, tadi saya sudah kasih contoh, sign up ya untuk online submission, manuscript. Did you cite at least 2 paper from the journal that you want to submit? Ya, acknowledgement. Avoid long sentences. Arti long sentences apa? Kalau kita tulis bahasa Inggris, jangan sentence-nya panjang banget seperti kereta, ya, sampai 4 line, terlalu panjang. Biasanya 2 line, ya. Avoid long sentences. Check the requirement for author guideline. Kemudian cek juga Tenitin ya, Bu Kokom. Saya punya student ada juga problem karena menyelesaikan essay aja nyontek. Sampai 72% kutip dari paper essay orang lain. Jadi Tenitin itu bisa cek juga. Sudah masukin belum reference-nya. Ini kayaknya, wah, kutip the whole paragraph is not good. So you have to check Tenitin, ya. Nah, nanti ini akan share juga ya, Ibu Kokom, checklist, kemudian form cover letter, and as well as I want to show it to you comments and feedback. Biasanya kalau saya memberikan review ya, Bu Kokom, mungkin cocok dengan Bu Kokom ini. Comment feedback ini untuk improve your artikelnya apa? Cek dulu grammarnya, spelling, update reference-nya. Some references are too old, you have to update. Ensure your reference are based on international references. All Indonesia references must be translated to English. Karena bule-bule tidak tahu bahasa Indonesia. Jadi kalau semua bahasa Indonesia, mana tahu bule-bule. Jadi semua bahasa Indonesia harus ditranslate ya dalam bahasa Inggris. Ensure having page number, ya, punya cek author guideline-nya, attach template, cover letter, saya kasih cover letter ya tadi, emerald insight-nya, abstract-nya should follow, structure abstract, download tadi, kemudian literatur, semua sama ya. Tadi saya kasih checklist. Ini saya kasih gambaran, kalau saya memberikan review, semua long list ya, sampai kira-kira 28 comments, ya. Seperti ini. Kemudian saya akan kasih juga ke Bu Kokom, ke Prof. D, untuk format kalau kita dapat feedback ya dari reviewer. Bagaimana kita merespon ya kira-kira reviewer komen ini Bu Kokom? Kita perlu cantum manuskrip number-nya berapa. Kalau kita submit kan dikasih reference number-nya. Judul paper kita apa. Kemudian kita tulis respond to reviewers' comments. We would like to thank the reviewers for their valuable comments and the editor for allowing us the opportunity to revise the paper. So below, we describe detailed revision made in response to the reviewer comments. So we have only this inscribed the comments where the reviewers were suggesting improvement. In the revised manuscript, we have incorporated changes in red. So you can see here. So you create a table. You got comments. Jadi comments ini comment reviewer 1. Kita copy and paste saja ya, Bu Kokom, dari email yang kita dapat. Kemudian kira-kira revisionnya apa? Ini yang kita harus isi di sini. We acknowledge that our first draft did not discuss how the proposed model will affect the security, blah, blah, blah. So you mentioned that. Now, we have discussed this issue in our revised paper. Where? Is that on page 19, line 20 to 20? So every single thing you have addressed, you have to mention it. What page number, what line number, and what did you say? And this is very good table and format. Ya, Bu Kokom dan rekan-rekan, ini saya kasih contoh. Nanti bisa ditiru kira-kira tabelnya seperti ini. Nah, komennya ini perlu di-copy dari email yang Bapak Ibu terima dari reviewers, dari editor. Begitu terima, ya. Kemarin saya juga spend the whole day sama Unsri, sama UI ya. Karena mereka dua universitas sudah dapat tanda green ya, hijau untuk Q1. Saya bilang hati-hati. Kita telusurin ini, respond to reviewer comment, kita telusuri papernya, kita lihat deadline-nya kapan kita harus resubmit ya. Deadline-nya kadang dikasih 2 minggu, kadang dikasih 1 bulan, kadang dikasih 3 bulan, kadang dikasih 6 bulan. Ya. So, we have to do it if we want to revise the paper. Right? This is very important. Okay? So you with me, everyone? Yeah? So I'm more than happy to give 4 of them. Now, I want to share video. So, okay, so I want to share video. So rekan-rekan kalau bisa dicatat ya. Dan di kira-kira ini penting sekali penulisan abstrak ya. Jadi saya akan share ya penulisan abstrak. Ya, kurang lebih ini penulisan abstrak ya. Okay, so can everybody see the share screen? Okay. Okay. So, can everybody look at this?
Welcome to RMIT University's Graduate Researcher Know-How Series for Masters and PhD by research students. One of the most important skills you'll need over the next few years is to be able to write abstracts for journal articles and conference papers. This workshop will offer you some handy hints for developing or enhancing this skill. We'll be examining abstracts from research papers. If you prefer to read the abstracts in more depth, we recommend that you pause this video now and download the PDF of abstracts from the link next to this workshop. A well-written abstract is valuable for a number of reasons. It's an efficient way for readers to identify if the research is relevant to their purposes. And hopefully it's written in such a way as to persuade the reader to read more. The short length of the abstract makes it easy to display in online search catalogues. And the key words listed after the abstract help guide the reader to related articles that might be as relevant or perhaps even more relevant to your project. Now, complete this activity. Read these opening sentences from 4 different abstracts. What disciplines do these abstracts come from? Remember, some papers are written by multidisciplinary teams, so you may need to consider more than one discipline. Here are 4 possible answers. The first one appears to relate to transport logistics, the second to electronic or computer engineering, the third to business, accounting and finance, And the final one to education, literature, or creative writing. What do you notice about these sentences? What function do they perform as the first sentence in an abstract? I want you to read the opening sentences again and look at that function that they perform. Pause the video while you think about it. Well, two of the opening sentences go directly to the point, what the research is about. This approach is used for short abstracts, and some journals require this style. That's right, different academic journals or conference conveners often determine how you will write your abstract. The other two examples are establishing a general topic and a specific issue. The last example also identifies the gap in knowledge that the research will cover, and we can see that gap by the words less attention. We expect that these abstracts will be longer, the ones that start with the topic. This is the basic structure of an abstract, or indeed a summary of research. The 7-sentence structure for a more traditional paper might look like this. There's a general background setting the context, the research issue or problem and the scope of the research are stated. Then that gap in the research is identified, followed by a method, key findings or results, implications for the field, theoretical or applied, and applications of the research or future research opportunities. This is in fact similar to a traditional thesis structure, and it's a highly summarized form of exactly that. We know that this order can change depending on the topic and the way the writer wants to present it. So note that different disciplines use different styles, as do different journals, and so on. Other influences on style include multidisciplinary projects, the fact that English is an international language and is therefore also open to variation. In the next set of slides, we're going to examine different abstracts from different disciplines and identify their structures. We recommend that you pay close attention to the differences you can identify. One or a combination of these abstract structures may be useful for presenting your own research. So read this abstract from Business and Finance and list the key points in order of presentation. Remember that part of a sentence may indicate one point, while another part introduces another point. Pause the video now while you read and identify the function of these sentences in terms of structuring an abstract. We can identify the following key pieces of information about the research in this abstract. In sentence 1, we find the research topic and the focus, with enough detail so we know the scope of the research and the period or time scale of the study, that is, the global financial crisis. This is followed by the method used to achieve the aims and objectives in 4, and what the method seeks to reveal in 5, which is exemplified in 6. 7 shows the results, and 8 gives the implications of the results in alternative contexts. And then finally, 9 makes a recommendation or contribution. So we can see that there's an opportunity for future activity. Now look at this abstract from literary studies or creative writing and list the structural features of each sentence. Pause the video now. We can find 7 points connected to the research. The scope or focus, Australia, 1. the problem, 2, and the gap, 3. Then to the as a discussion, 4, about the method that captured data about the research aim, 6. The results are implied in 7, which outlines their implications for the field. So you can see that in 7 sentences we have a very, very, very clear summary of research. Now let's read the logistics abstract. Pause the video and list the structural features. I can identify 9 abstract. First, we learn about the research topic 1 and the scope, the Asia Pacific region, 2. Then we're introduced to the method, 3, that aims to achieve the applied aim of 4. We get more detail about the variables used, 5, in a particular model, 6, that resolves particular problems with the tool, 7. Number 8 points to the results of the research, a classification tool that researchers have designed for a specific purpose, 9. Incheon Airport was their particular test case, so the results have particular relevance to this site. See how 9 or 10 pieces of information can fit into 4 sentences? This is very concise indeed. Activity 5 relates to electronic engineering and computer science. Pause the video to list the key structural features in the abstract. The opening sentence introduces the research topic, 1, and their significance and applications, 2. Number 3 raises a key issue regarding reliability, and number 4 explains what is done currently to deal with this issue. Number 5 introduces a new technology, nanotechnology, that complicates this topic. Number 7 introduces current research, and number 8 points to the purpose of the paper, a literature review of research on the topic to date. So there are 8 key points that have been made in 7 sentences. Pause if you'd like to review this. This 6th abstract comes from a journal article in the Health Sciences. Pause the video and examine its structure. Now this is a different structure to the previous abstracts. It's a case study report that results in a set of recommendations for treatment of similar cases. The audience for this paper is the practicing chiropractor, which is why it's got so much detail. You can see how the aim and the situation is stated without any preamble. Then each section is given a heading, so there is no doubt about what you will read. The second section sets out the clinical features of the condition. The third section elaborates on the intervention and outcome. And section 4 gives the conclusion, summarizes the issue, identifies criteria for establishing an at-risk patient, and recommends a course of action. Pause the video if you'd like to look at this more closely. We're going to explore a little more deeply now to look at the grammatical subjects of the sentences in the abstracts. Grammatical subjects refer to the first topic in each sentence, or the theme. If you look at these examples here, you'll see that the themes relate to the stages of research, the purpose and aim, actions pertaining to the method, findings, and the significance of the findings and the conclusion. This is a good time to look at the PDF of abstracts because it's quite difficult to go back and look at them on the video. Choose 2 of the abstracts and list their grammatical subjects. Are they similar to the ones in the list we've just looked at, or different? As you can see from the table I've provided, the subject or theme of each sentence has a relationship with a stage in the research. We can see that the last abstract, the case study, presents as more direct and less academic. Pause the video while you compare. Because an abstract is the basic outline of a research story, it takes place across time, the past, the present, and the future. And we identify their shifts in English time by using verb tenses. A verb is an action or doing word.
Okay, so everyone, if you look at the abstract, this is very important, as you mentioned, about 3 different times, when you present it in the past or, in the current form, which is the present, or in the future. So, jadi Ibu ini menceritakan kalau kita menulis abstrak, kita melihat kira-kira dari waktu di dalam penelitian itu, ya. Jadi menggunakan verb tenses. Jadi verb tensesnya kalau dilihat dari tabel ini penting sekali ya, karena banyak sekali kalau saya review abstrak ya, Bu Kokom, banyak sekali yang benar-benar tidak sesuai dengan aturan untuk verb tensesnya. Jadi ini penting jadi untuk rekan-rekan bisa menyimak dan mendengarkan. Ini bagus sekali dia merimain kita kalau kita menulis abstrak, oke?
Let's go through the verbs you're likely to see in an abstract. The future tense, will, indicates a strong prediction, which is often difficult to make with accuracy. It's more usual to use hedging or tentative language in abstracts and in theses or dissertations. For example, is likely to result in, is likely to have the following effect. And we use words like predict, which is a strong likelihood, rather than using will. Present continuous marks an event occurring right now. Current research is focusing on. Now, this is not commonly used in abstracts. We would usually say current research focuses on, which use the present tense, which is the next tense that we're looking at and is one of the most frequent ones that you will see in an abstract. It shows a consistent state. It's like a state of fact. And in an abstract, you're not likely, sometimes you might see a reference, but you're more than, usually we don't have any references in abstracts. We have things like an important feature is, or research notes that. The present perfect tense is called the experiential tense because it marks actions that started in the past and have continued perhaps until now. So, for example, in recent years, X has demonstrated, and again, we probably wouldn't have names, but you might see this present perfect in an abstract when it's trying to show a difference between the past, present, and its current research that is going to change the game plan for the future. The simple past is also frequently used to mark completed actions, in particular in the methods section. So, for example, a small-scale survey was undertaken. And again, we probably wouldn't be putting in references to a research paper like a Gambay et al. Found That's more likely to be found in the paper itself, in the literature review. You can see likely explanations for verb tense choices in the blue box on the right. In sentence 1, the present tense is expected is used because it refers to probability regarding a future condition. This statement provides the rationale for the study, or why it's important to conduct this piece of research. The study aim of 2 is written in the present to highlight that it's about to happen and that the aim has been set. It's interesting that we don't say the aim of this study was to. If you are reporting on a study, we can keep it in the present so that the reader feels that it is really current and up to date. Sentence 3 actually has a hidden phrase that begins, "In this research paper we explore." And we explore is in the present because the researchers are telling a story to the reader. Again, like with number 2, the aim of this study, the reader wants to feel like they're discovering the research themselves right now. Sentence 4 gives a fact about soil erosion. So the writer uses the present tense, is associated with. In sentence 5, the method is in the past tense because you want to show that the research was carried out, it happened, and it can't be unchanged. And in sentence 6, the analysis might usually be read in the past tense as we found. But in this case, the analysis is directly connected to results that have immediate practical application. So the present tense is used. And sentence 7 is in the present. We predict that these strategies could reduce erosion. These are important implications of the study. And of course, we predict again is really talking about the future. So we sort of see how at the beginning of the sentence we have an expectation for the future. And then at the end we have future strategies that can deal with that future expectation. So this is a really neat abstract. Look again through 3 of the abstracts presented in slides 8 to 12, or in the PDF file that you've downloaded. Identify the verb tenses in each sentence and explain why these verb tenses were selected by the author. And are there any verbs that you would prefer to modify or change, and why? I've put together a table of the verb tenses I identified in the abstracts. And again, we can see that the final abstract has many more verbs than the others and many more in the past tense because it's a case study. Pause the video while you look at these and compare them. Now it's time for you to do your own analysis of research paper abstracts that are relevant to your field of study. Why don't you download 5 abstracts or full articles related to your research topic from peer-reviewed journals where possible, or download 5 from one high-ranking journal. For each abstract, identify the order in which the research is presented.
Okay, so everyone, so this is something we would like to practice after you watch the video presentation. So after this one, you have another one. So you know that you download some of the good articles, right, for your research. So what you need to do, you download 5 abstract from the articles you have downloaded in the past few weeks, right? Related to your research topic from different journals. And then you can just name it, is that, ranking, which is Q1 or Q2, right? And then for each abstract, right? So you mark and note the following. order of presentation, such as the function or purpose of each sentence, opening sentence like started points, function, sentence subject use, for example, I or we, this paper, or participants, verb tenses in each sentence. You know, in the previous slide, she mentioned about different types of verb tenses, like present, past, perfect tenses, for example, like, we have presented, you can see that table, okay? So are there any obvious differences in the abstract? And can you explain why? Okay, so let's listen again what she said in this slide. Okay, it's just about like 1 or 2 minutes to go. Okay.
That is the key research points or sentence functions. Note what the opening sentence does. Underline the sentence subjects and identify when we or I is used, and think about why. Circle all the verb tenses and explain to yourself why the authors have selected these verb tenses and not others. Are there any obvious differences in the abstract structures of the papers that you've chosen? Can you explain why? Is it because they are doing different things? Are they reviewing literature, or are they exploring a single piece of research, or are they hypotheticals? What are they actually doing? Now, follow the information that you gathered in this workshop and write an abstract related to your current research or topic of interest. It's time for you to have a go. Download information about an upcoming conference and write an abstract that addresses the conference themes. Or find a high-ranking journal in your field of research and write an abstract in the house style of the journal. You can write an abstract at any stage in your research, so give it a go. Summarizing is a very, very effective way of working out where you are in your stage of research and what you're attempting to achieve.
Okay, so this is the last activity as well for your discuss in the small group. You come up with writing abstract. So Ibu Kokom, this is very important because whatever you submit the paper, the first thing the editor, we need to look at your research by looking at the abstract. Okay, so it's very important for that. Okay, so so we still have one more video presentation, but I really need to have a activity, Bu Kokom, regarding for abstract. It's a very important for that. Okay, so try to make sure everybody in this room, understand with the abstract. Okay. Okay, so
here's a quote on how to keep up with scientific literature. We've seen how abstracts can offer a condensed view of very complicated research. So why don't you start practicing now? Cheers.
okay, so everybody understand now, so that the class activity is you be able to download first, right? 5 abstract from the topic in the small group, and then you familiar yourself with the all 5 abstract, and then you need to write your abstract based on for your research. So you got your objective you know that in the past week, we mentioned about your research question, research objective, etc. Okay, so it's just like you're practicing how to write abstract. Yeah, Bukokom. It's not necessary you have to have a result from your research when you write the abstract, but I really want to see how you have better understanding when you write abstract for your paper. Okay, because this one abstract is important when you write for your thesis, including for your dissertation, right? So now we have another video presentation. If you don't mind, can everybody take a note? Very important as well in terms of effective critical reading, because most of you don't know how to read critically, right? So I just want to connect this video, about 18 minutes for video, so you'll be able to take a notes about critical reading, okay?
Welcome to this second workshop on effective critical reading for graduate researchers. I'm Dr. Jen Anderson. You will be invited to complete activities and then listen to discussions about the possible answers. But before you begin this workshop, familiarise yourself with the meaning of the term assumptions and inferences in the workshop Analysing an Argument. In Workshop 1, we examined the various academic purposes of reading with the critical eye, and we used the criteria for assessing text relevance for a research project. In this workshop, we'll revisit ways to assess the relevance of an article for your research, and then we'll focus on ways to understand and interrogate the text, and finish up with strategies for building your critical reading skills. For this workshop, you'll need to download a copy of the article Trees and Urban Forestry in Beijing, China. If you did part 1 of this workshop series, you'll have already downloaded that article. You'll find it next to the link to these two video workshops on effective critical reading. In part 1 of this series, we investigated the relevance of a research article for this research topic, urban forestry, a cultural perspective. The research aim is to consider cultural elements of urban forestry by conducting case studies in Melbourne, Australia, and Beijing, China. If you haven't yet done this activity, do it now. Pause the video, complete the activity, and then see the comments on the next slide. But if you have done this section, just move through to slide number 5. So this is my assessment of the relevance of the article for the research topic. Let's see if you agree. A brief overview of the article suggests that it is quite relevant to the thesis topic. Its title is closely related, although we're not sure if it will discuss cultural practices. We need to flick through the text to find evidence of cultural information. Second, its perspective is close to the thesis objectives, with a Beijing focus. Regarding authority and credibility, while the journal ranking is pretty low, it is peer-reviewed, and George Professor appears to be a credible researcher, in particular because he has sought information and advice from forestry experts in Beijing. What is at issue is the currency of the journal article. It's over 25 years old, and if we think about the massive changes that have taken place in Beijing over the last 25 years, we need to ask if it is still relevant today. The same cultural and forestry management principles might apply. Despite the city's transformation, but they also may have changed dramatically. And this is something we need to follow up. But in summary, I think this article is an excellent starting point. Even though it's out of date, it gives me a list of forestry management principles and cultural practices to compare against more contemporary practices, and to help me kind of visualize how I might go about looking at contemporary Beijing and Melbourne urban forestry planning. Now we're going to dig deeper into the text in order to understand the content and analyse it critically. After we've assessed the text for relevance and we like what we see, the next step is to scan the text and formulate questions for the next step, which will be a detailed critical reading. In this next activity, we're going to scan the article Trees and Urban Forestry in Beijing, China. We're going to look quickly through the abstract, the introduction, subtitles, figures and graphs and other images, and the conclusion. We're only going to take about 5 minutes to do this, and we'll make a quick note of the key points. Then, based on this scan of key information, we'll write down 5 questions that we want to know more about when we read the detail. So do these 2 activities now. Pause the video and complete it. One of the ways of conducting a critical reading is to apply Socratic questioning. Named after the classical Greek philosopher and teacher Socrates, it's a technique used to extend analytical and evaluative thinking skills. Clustered on the tree on the left are some questions that I've formulated based on my scan of the text. Look at these questions. Most of them are of a particular type. What's their function? That is, what do they seek to answer? Pause if you'd like to read these questions more closely. But let's look now at the list of Socratic questioning types. Clarifying concepts of questions that seek to understand the information presented. Probing for assumptions of questions that look for the hidden values and beliefs of the writer. We sometimes refer to this as reading between the lines. When we probe for rationale, we seek to find out why the writer thinks the information they're presenting is important, the contribution that it's likely to make. And asking questions of evidence, we want to provide further justification for the value of the research. When we question viewpoints, we ask whether the opinions of the writer are credible, shared, or purely subjective. And when we probe implications, we ask, what are the likely impacts of the research findings or solutions? And we can also question the research question. Why ask this question and not another related question, for example? Now, that's right. Most of the questions aim to clarify concepts, to get information from the text. In the first reading of a text, when our knowledge is limited, this is the most likely type of question to ask. What type of questions did you formulate from a quick scan of the article? Now read the article to answer your 5 questions. And if you want to know more about Socratic questioning, just follow the link in the references at the end of this video. Pause now. Now you've got a general overview of the information in the text. We're going to use the other Socratic questioning types to read for detail and analysis. First, Go back to the article and read the introduction again, and this time identify the rationale for the research, the reasons for doing the research, or the contributions that it will make, and ask yourself, am I convinced by these claims? Why or why not? Then identify some of the assumptions made by the writer that form the basis of the rationale. Are the assumptions valid, in your opinion? Can you explain why or why not? If you're not sure how to identify assumptions, do the workshop on analysing an argument, and when you're ready doing these activities, click to the next slide for a discussion. First, let's look at the rationale from the introduction. The first sentence of the rationale is a statement of value. Urban forests are increasingly valuable in their influences on the quality of life in a rapidly changing world. The second sentence begins with the topic of the research. By studying urban values and use in cities with divergent cultures and histories. Then comes the first contribution. Similarities or differences may provide new management insights. And a second contribution. It may provide important clues to human preferences and behaviour. Note how the writer uses the modal of probability may, marked in red. Modals such as may and are likely to often appear in research rationales where the impact of the research cannot be strictly measured. We might probe the rationale by asking such questions as, can this research really contribute to management practices? In what way? And can clues to human preferences and behaviour be generalised beyond a specific context? I am quite convinced by the rationale. I'd like to read further. Now let's look at some of the assumptions the writer has made. Remember, assumptions are not explicit. They're underlying values or beliefs. I'm going to slowly click through these assumptions and give an analysis of whether or not I think they're valid. That is, can I think of a situation where the assumption does not hold? That's the way I'm going to check it. Do you have other assumptions or comments about the validity of these claims? You know, perhaps these assumptions were accepted as valid when the article was written, but I think that today we would need to clarify these assumptions for the reader. This time we're going to investigate viewpoints and implications. Now follow the questions and read the section called Location. Pause the video now.
Suaranya kecil.
Kedengeran, tapi masih kecil suaranya.
Some possible answers.
Iya sih kecil. Nggak tahu teman-teman, kedengaran nggak? Bu Riris?
Gathering question.
Iya Bu, sudah terdengar jelas.
Pressures that are identified in Beijing might be equally relevant to Melbourne. But I do ask myself another probing question. What about now? What are the impacts of climate change and carbon pollution on the city and on urban forest species. Question 5b seeks to understand the point of view and to question it. Furos implicitly questions the viewpoint of the forestry authorities in Beijing to favour wind reduction over pollution clearance. We understand that he would probably consider another option. Question 5c extends the thinking of Furos into a future scenario, possibly made more real by climate change. What are the implications of Beijing becoming a desert? And what will this mean for forestry management? We should be able to answer these questions 25 years on with greater accuracy, and possibly we might have more solutions. So by actively engaging with the text, you can see that we find useful material for our own research. Our questions grow in depth and give us ideas for our projects. Right then, now it's time for you to pose some Socratic questions that focus on the research question, the questions that should lead you to further research articles. Read the instructions for each article section, these article sections, and then go to the text and formulate your own probing questions. Pause the video now while you do this activity. Here are some possible probing questions. You may have thought of others that encourage further research. Pause the video if you'd like to look at my questions and think about the ones that you posed. As we said, this article is very old, but it has been really useful to get some ideas and pose questions for the research project. It's also good to understand the historical background, because one of the key functions of research is to document change over time. Now I'd like to find some more up-to-date articles. I'll read them and use the probing questions I formed in the other article to see if I can get more information. Here are two different ways to do a catalogue search to find more up-to-date articles. Try them both, option 1 and option 2, and decide which gives you better results. The first one uses the title of the research, and the second one uses keywords in the research. Do they retrieve the same sources or different ones? I guess the idea around this is that you need to try different strategies to make sure that you can find the sources that you need. The first year of an HDR degree can be really challenging, particularly So our final advice is read often, don't give up, read every day if possible, and read actively and pose questions before and during your reading. Keep a list of the questions that you're posing. You'll probably use them again for your next reading, and they may guide your research project. Create a study group that reads and writes together. In particular, in the humanities or on group research projects in the sciences, this kind of group work will save time in the end because you'll be sharing great insights and making notes. If you need to discuss what you've read with your supervisor to check that you're on the right track, ask them to listen to you talk about the reading and what you've gained from it, and seek their input. Don't wait for them to.
Okay. I just stop for a moment. So I think for critical reading, so just giving you more understanding when you read a lot of articles, so giving some strategy tips, from her. And this is, if you download a lot of articles related to your research, and she giving you about, the strategy. So I'm giving you book the link, so you all be able to listen again in the future, especially in the last two video. Okay, so now we still have time now to do a class activity ya Bu Kokom, buat rekan-rekan in the small group. Class activity we can start now for the abstract. Okay, so use what I just giving you information abstract. Download 5 articles related to your research abstract, and then whatever you receive that video presentation in terms of verb tenses, etc., you'll be able to identify from those 5 abstract, and then the rest you can start developing your abstract, right? So your abstracts, and then we be able to discuss. In the next meeting, we be able to, you need to show your abstract, each group. Then I need to give you some comments, feedback about your abstract presentation. Yeah, Bu Kokong?
Yeah.
So this is a part of the task. All students, you'll be able to practice, okay? So it could be not necessary today you have to present your abstract, but I want you in the next 30 or 45 minutes, right? So you work in the small group. So I will visit in the small group, each group. When you talk about 5 abstract, when you write the abstract, and you need to produce in 1 slide about your abstract in English, not in Bahasa Indonesia. Because we need to practice now. Unfortunately, when you publish in Q1, Q2, must be in English, not in Bahasa. So I think it's very important all of you can practice to write abstract, okay? So in the next 45 minutes, please, if you work in a small group, right, and then download 5 abstract related to your research, right, and discuss among your small group, and then you produce abstract from your research. Okay, so please focus. I'm just giving you 45-minute task assessment, right? So this is what we call task assessment. Yeah, Bukokom and the rest. Yeah. So I need to see the group, right? And then more active, more engaging. So in this activity, okay? Because that's why we have a writing clinic coaching in this abstract. If you have problem during the presentation later on, I'm giving you feedback comments for each group, please take some point and listen. And I need other group also contribute as well, right? So what you can learn from others, and this is a very important, what we call learning from peers, okay? So what you need to do, if you don't mind, before Salat Maghrib, so I just need to make sure 45 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, please focus. I need to visit for each group, right? 45 minutes. Yeah. Start conversation, and we can start now. Okay, thank you.
Oke, saya buka, ya, silahkan bergabung. Pak Adam sudah saya sampaikan, Pak Adam.
Iya, Bu Kokom, makasih.
Ya,
Makasih, mohon maaf ini
ya, nggak
baru.
apa-apa.
Iya, makasih Prof. Ferry Jie, atas kesediaannya. Ya, kita sedang membangun jurnal-jurnal ya, siapa tahu nanti bisa juga terindeks di Scopus. Harapannya begitu. Amin. Terima kasih.
Ini Pak Adam yang tadi saya bilang, kebetulan ketua jurusan kami itu pengelola jurnal CPTK.
KPTK.
CPTK.
Kalau bisa Scopus ya, jangan Sinta. Kita naikkan ke Scopus, minimum
Ya,
Q4 atau Q3 kalau
iya,
bisa.
iya. Kita upayakan tahun ini mau submit ke sana, ya, sehingga butuh tambahan dari editorial board-nya yang dari international.
Siap,
Ya,
Pak Adam.
ya,
Nanti kalau
makasih.
mau bantu apa, silakan hubungi saya. Nanti kalau saat nanti saya ke Jakarta atau ke Surabaya atau Semarang, saya akan kontak ya.
Oke,
Nanti
oke.
pada saat itu bisa di launching jurnal itu, kemudian dilakukan kira-kira coaching writing retreat.
Ya.
Oke,
Harus submit ya. Nanti
oke.
bisa dibicarakan mungkin lebih ke intensif ya, lebih
Ya,
ke intensif buat paper-paper. Nah, nanti saya juga ada bantu juga terutama yang Q1 Q2.
oke, oke.
Kalau
Ya,
pas sudah ada nanti Q1 Q2, nah nanti kita bisa memajukan UNY untuk
ya,
Scopus rankingnya dan World Class Ranking University. Sekarang
oke.
World Class Ranking University itu dilihat dari research ya Pak Adam ya. Jadi dilihat dari research, kemudian dilihat dari research outputnya, publication, kemudian dilihat dari jurnalnya ya, dari UNY. Jadi kira-kira jurnal ini apakah banyak dari internasional. Jadi nanti kalau sudah masuk Scopus ya Pak Adam dan Bu Kokom, saya
Ya,
akan bagikan ke network saya. Jadi kita benar-benar jadi kompetisi nanti jurnal itu.
ya, betul. Ini kita
Mungkin
upayakan untuk bisa
ya,
tahun ini. Kita upayakan tahun ini mau submit ke sana, supaya
ya.
terindeks di Scopus.
Mm.
Karena
Karena
makasih atas kesediaannya nanti jadi salah satu
yes,
editorial board-nya. Kalau
sure.
mungkin
Nanti
juga ada
ya
referensi kolega
teman-teman
yang
ya.
dari Afrika sama US kan untuk
Ada.
melengkapi 5 benua gitu.
Iya,
Ya,
saya ada
kami
yang
minta.
dari Thailand kalau mau, dari Bhutan, dari USA, dari
Ya,
Jerman.
yang USA sama Afrika kalau ada supaya melengkapi 5 benua.
Oke,
Oke, nanti kalau ada mohon referensinya.
ya, sure.
Oke,
Oke,
oke, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Oh ya, nanti minta alamat email Prof. Ferry Jie ya.
Iya,
Meskipun
Ada,
mungkin
Pak.
ada ya.
ada,
Oh ya,
ada.
nanti dari
Ya.
Bu Kokom.
Ibu Kokom ada.
Ya.
Oke, great.
Iya, you're welcome.
Yang lain gimana ini? Masuk ke mana ini?
Yang lain kok masih ada di sini ya?
Ayo.
Rekan-rekan, breakout room-nya ya waktu sudah lewat dari 5 menit, 6 menit. Karena waktunya cukup terbatas harus gesit. Ya. Yang lain kemudian Ramadhani, Feby, Budina, Mbak Eti, Mbak Sarah, Mbak Sinta, Mbak Manda, Mbak Elsa, ya, Mbak Sus, Mbak Sinta, Ya.
Prof. Ferry Jie, saya sudah dari room 1 sampai 4 sudah tidak ada mahasiswa lagi, semuanya sudah di room main session.
Okay.
Mungkin
Alright.
tadi kelamaan ya, maaf.
Okay. Ya, masalahnya drop banyak ya. Dan tadi ada 40, sekarang cuma 25. Anyway, thank you for coming. So everybody, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So everyone, before Salat Maghrib, so what you need to do, you continue working on it, your abstract. So I really need next week for each group to have presentation. So you have 10 minutes to present your abstract. So after Salat Maghrib, if you want to stay again in the room, more than happy to stay. I'm more than happy to stay as well after Salat Maghrib if you want to continue working on your abstract, because the abstract writing is a very important, okay? Especially for your journal article as well as your thesis or dissertation. So can I please suggest to you what you need to do? There are 3 tasks for you. First, you download 5 article abstract related to your topic. Have you done it? If yes, I need you to show it to me next week, right? Each group, but you don't need to present 5 abstract, right? From the article, from high-ranked journal. And the second task for you next week, you need to present your abstract, right? For each group. So each group has 10 minutes, and then I will give you feedback and comments, okay? So please make sure everybody in this room having better understanding for that. Now, next week, Ibu Kokom, just double check with you, we go back on the same time. Are you happy on Tuesday or you happy on Wednesday?
Okay. Tuesday, maybe.
Tuesday, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're happy on Tuesday, so will be 3:30, or you happy at 3 o'clock? Maybe better 3 o'clock, because you okay at 3 o'clock?
Oh, 3 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah, because we have a abstract presentation. So start 3 o'clock, and then we finish by 5, yeah? And then to present for your one, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So any questions before we have Salat Maghrib, everyone? Any questions? You'll be able to stay after Salat Maghrib to work on your group if you want to. I'm more than happy to, be in that Zoom as well if you want to, right? If you just in case having any question. But now, please, have your Salat Maghrib break and also dinner, and then you also can work on the abstract, okay? Ya, Bu Kokom, saya sudah terima artikelnya. Nanti saya akan baca dan saya akan kira-kira kalau bisa Q4, Q3 ya, karena Sinta saya kurang begitu ini, jadi maunya saya Q4, Q3 minimum ya.
Baik, terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Sehat-sehat ya Bu Kokom, tetap sehat, dan juga Pak Adam dan juga rekan-rekan di main room, sehat selalu ya. Mungkin kalau ada pertanyaan saya akan sampai again ya. Oke, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Terima kasih, Prof.